All right. So we're gonna keep working through some trig identities just to verify them. If we had to change the title, this should be part two. So we're starting off with the problem: sine of x divided by 1 plus cosine of x should equal 1 minus cosine of x divided by sine of x. There are a couple ways that we can work with this, and I'm going to show you those couple ways, and you can kind of see how they're similar to each other. So when I have a fraction equal to another fraction, I kind of want to maybe cross multiply. Because I'll work with fractions if I need to, but if I don't have to, then I don't have to, right? And that's using, like, this is employing the fifth strategy listed here. Prove that AD is equal to BC, so we can conclude that A over B would equal C over D. All right. So we're just going to go ahead and cross multiply. So if I do so, I get sine squared of x should equal 1 minus cosine of x times 1 plus cosine of x. All right. And then from there, you can go ahead and multiply that second term out. So you should get sine squared of x is equal to 1 plus cosine of x minus cosine of x minus cosine squared of x. And right here we can see that these two cancel out, so we are left with the expression sine squared of x is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. That's a true identity, so we can consider it done. Okay, so that's where the cross multiplying comes in. But let's say that you didn't see the cross multiplying, or that you didn't know that cross multiplying like that was valid. So let's see what else we could do. You could also consider rewriting this so that way you have common denominators, and if you have the common denominators, you can just go ahead and talk about, like, if the denominators are the same and the numerator are the same, then both fractions have to be equal to each other. All right. So what that would involve is I would have to multiply this by 1 plus cosine of x top and bottom. Now I'd have to multiply this by a sine of x top and bottom. Right? Because now I have sine of x times 1 plus cosine, sine of x times 1 plus cosine. These denominators are exactly the same. So once I do that and I simplify the numerators, I can state whether or not this would be equivalent. So I end up with sine squared of x over sine of x times 1 plus cosine of x would have to equal, well, let's go ahead and multiply these out. 1 plus a cosine of x minus a cosine of x minus a cosine squared of x over sine of x times 1 plus cosine of x. Right? And again, I can note that these two cancel out. So then I would have sine squared of x over sine of x, 1 plus cosine of x multiplied to it. And I get 1 minus cosine squared of x over, again, that common denominator. Right? And I know that this can be replaced with a sine squared. So then I have this is equal to this. So I can consider that done. So yeah, that's what you can do. All right, so let me set up and let's do a couple more. All right. So now we have this one. Okay. So my first instinct is to not introduce any Pythagorean identities because I don't really see any squareds here, so I don't see the need to think about those. And if I think about cosecant and cotangent, um, well, they're both for cosecant. I guess for this problem, I would like to break this down in terms of sine and cosine. So I'm going to break this up and think about it as 1 over sine of x. Yep. My touchscreen stopped working, so this is going to be a long process. Minus, and this is cosine of x over sine of x. All right, so I have that equals what I'm given. So I'm just going to write it down since I have to use my mouse now. Great. So now I can combine this side and just say, well, I have 1 minus cosine of x over sine of x. Over sine of x equals, and for what I have to do, I have to actually write it over again, which I normally would, again, if my touchscreen was working. I remember when my smartboard used to give me troubles. I miss those days. All right, well, nope, still not working. Well, you guys get where I'm going with this, right? I'm just going to put cosine of x because I don't feel like typing this out. And then from here, you would go ahead and cross multiply. Right? Because again, it's back to what we had in the previous video. We had fraction equals fraction, so you can either rewrite these to have a common denominator, or you can cross multiply. I preferred cross multiplying, so that's what I'm going to do. So then I would end up with sine squared of x equals 1 minus cosine of x times 1 plus cosine of x. So then we end up with sine squared of x equals 1 minus cosine squared of x, which is an identity. So we can consider it done at that point. And that's it. I'll make a second video once I restart my Chromebook because this is the worst.